I was rolling off a graveyard shift run, rain hammering the windshield, when my headlights caught something that damn near stopped my heart. A little girl standing alone beside the chain-link fence of our trucking terminal. No adults, no cars, just this soaked kid hugging a limp stuffed elephant like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I eased the semi to a stop, boots splashing in oily puddles as I approached her slow. She wouldn't give me a name, just whispered that he said I couldn't stay here. And when she glanced back at the terminal gate like she expected someone to drag her out again, I felt my whole world tilt sideways. Kids don't end up alone at my company yard by accident. I got her into the cab, cranked the heat, handed her a spare hoodie. That's when she hit me with the line that froze my hands on the wheel. They said nobody would believe me because of my family. She didn't say which family. She didn't have to. Our CEO's clan runs this place like a dynasty. Money, control, and enough secrets to choke a convoy. And the second I heard her voice crack, I knew this wasn't just a rescue. I'd just picked up a kid tied to the nastiest feud in the company. One that the vice president, the CEO's own right-hand man, would burn the whole damn fleet down to win. Name's Hank Rourke, but most folks on the CB call me Mac, because I've been driving Mac since before half these dispatchers were born. 20 years behind the wheel, hauling everything from refrigerated produce to construction steel across 48 states. I'm what they call old school, union-minded, meticulous about my logs, and I keep my Dashcam running every second I'm on the road. Not because I'm paranoid, because I've seen what happens when it's your word against corporates and you've got nothing but air to back it up. I drive for Kane Interstate Logistics, a mid-sized freight operation based out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. We run regional routes through the Rust Belt and Midwest, Detroit to Chicago, Indianapolis to Cleveland, Kansas City to St. Louis. The company's been around since the 80s, built from nothing by Leonard or Leo Kane, a guy who used to drive himself before he got rich enough to let other people do the dirty work. Leo's legend in the industry, the kind of man drivers talked about with a mix of respect and resentment. He knew the road once, understood the grind, but somewhere along the way he checked out, handed too much control to the suits and spreadsheet jockeys. Now he's semi-retired, shows up for board meetings and publicity photos, but the day-to-day, that belongs to Victor Hale. Victor is the vice president of operations, and if Leo's the fading king, Victor is the ambitious prince sharpening his knife. Mid-40s, tailored suits, expensive watch, hair slicked back like he's auditioning for a villain role in a movie about corporate takeovers. He's polished, ruthless, and every driver I know either fears him or hates him, usually both. Victor doesn't just run operations, he controls them with an iron fist wrapped in a smile that never reaches his eyes. The drivers see him as a wolf in expensive clothing. He'll shake your hand at a safety meeting, talk about driver appreciation and family values, then turn around and write you up for being 10 minutes late on a delivery that was doomed from the start because dispatch overbooked the route. He treats us like replaceable parts, interchangeable, expendable, and always one mistake away from being swapped out for someone cheaper. But here's the thing about being a truck driver. Corporate thinks we're invisible. They see the rig, not the person inside. They see the cargo, not the guy hauling it. That invisibility, it's their mistake, because we see everything. We know which routes are impossible, which loads don't add up, which managers are cooking the books. We just usually don't have the power or the proof to do anything about it. Until now. The trucking life is a grind most people don't understand. You're up before dawn, running pre-trip inspections in the dark, checking tires, lights, airlines, fifth wheel, making sure nothing's going to kill you or someone else on the highway. Then you're climbing into the cab, logging into your ELD device, watching the clock tick down your available drive time like it's counting the minutes until your next violation. You deal with traffic, weather, bad roads, worse drivers. You sit at loading docks for hours waiting for forklifts that should have been ready when you arrived. You eat gas station food, sleep in truck stop parking lots, piss in bottles when there's nowhere to stop. You miss birthdays, holidays, your kids' first steps. And at the end of the month, after all that sacrifice, you get a paycheck that's been nickel and dimed by fuel surcharges, equipment fees, and administrative costs that somehow never quite add up. But you do it anyway, because it's honest work, because somebody's got to move the freight that keeps the country running, because you're good at it, and because deep down there's a freedom in the road that no office job can match. At Kane Interstate, the pay's decent if you keep your head down and don't ask questions. The equipment's aging but functional. The routes are demanding but manageable if you follow the rules. Problem is, following the rules has been getting harder. Over the past year, things started feeling off. Small things at first. Loads that didn't match the manifests. Sealed trailers we weren't supposed to open or inspect. Routes that made no sense. Deep torn through back roads when the highway was faster. Waste station avoidance when we should have been clean. Dispatch pushing us to fudge our ELD hours, to drive a little longer, to skip a rest break because the client's waiting. Most drivers grumbled but complied. Bills don't pay themselves. Mortgages don't care about your moral compass. You keep your head down, take the sketchy loads, and hope you're not the one who gets caught when it all falls apart. But I'm not most drivers. I keep records. Detailed, obsessive records. Every load, every route, every conversation with dispatch. I screenshot my ELD data before and after every shift. I keep hard copies of bills of lading, fuel receipts, waste station tickets. And my Dashcam, that thing's rolling 24/7, front and rear, with a backup SD card hidden in the cab just in case someone tries to wipe the main one. Call it paranoia, I call it survival. The night I found Emma, I just finished a 36-hour round trip hauling auto parts from Fort Wayne to a GM plant outside Flint, Michigan. The kind of run that leaves you hollow-eyed and jittery from too much coffee and not enough sleep. I was looking forward to clocking out, grabbing a shower, and collapsing into bed for 10 straight hours. Then my headlights caught her. I killed the engine, grabbed my flashlight, and approached slow. She was maybe 11, dark hair plastered to her face, clothes soaked through. The stuffed elephant she clutched was waterlogged, one ear hanging by a thread. She looked up at me with eyes too old for her age. Eyes that had seen things no kid should see. "Hey there," I said, keeping my voice low and steady. "You okay? Where's your folks?" She didn't answer, just stared at me like she was deciding whether I was safe or another threat. "I'm Hank," I said. "I work here, drive one of these big rigs. You lost?" "I'm not supposed to be here," she whispered. "Who said that?" "He did." Her eyes darted toward the terminal gate, then back to me. "He said nobody would believe me because of my family." That's when my gut twisted. "What's your name, sweetheart?" She hesitated. Then, "Emma." "Emma what?" Another pause, longer this time. Then, barely audible, "Kane." My blood went cold. Kane. As in Leo Kane, as in our CEO, as in the family that owned this company and everything in it, including the ground we stood on. I glanced back at the terminal. The guard shack was dark. No security, no cars, no sign of anyone looking for a missing kid. Which meant either she'd been dumped here on purpose or someone knew she was here and didn't care. Neither option was good. "Okay, Emma," I said, crouching down to her level. "How about we get you out of this rain and you tell me what's going on?" She nodded, and I led her to my truck. She climbed up into the cab like she'd done it before. No hesitation, no fear of the height. I cranked the heat, handed her a spare hoodie from behind the seat, and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. She sat in the passenger seat, clutching the elephant, staring at the rain streaking down the windshield. I gave her a bottle of water and a granola bar from my stash. She ate slowly, mechanically, like she hadn't had food in a while. "You gonna tell me what happened?" I asked gently. She looked at me, then down at the elephant. "My dad told me if something happens to him, someone at the company did it." My chest tightened. "What do you mean, if something happens?" "He's dead." Her voice was flat, empty. "They said it was an accident, a truck accident. But my dad said—" She trailed off, eyes welling up. "Said what, Emma?" "He said Victor was going to kill him." Victor. Victor Hale, the VP. I felt the world tilt again, harder this time. "Why would your dad say that?"
Emma's hands tightened around the elephant. "He found something. In the computers. He showed me once. Lines and lines of numbers that didn't match. He called them ghost lanes. He said someone was stealing from Grandpa Leo. And when he tried to tell him, Victor was there. Victor screamed at him. Said he was jeopardizing the operation. Said if my dad didn't stay in his lane, there'd be consequences." I sat back, processing. Daniel Kane, Leo's son-in-law, Emma's father, had died 3 months ago in a highway accident involving one of our trucks. The official story was mechanical failure. A blown tire on a mountain pass, truck went over the guardrail. Tragic, but not suspicious. Accidents happen in this industry. Except now, terrified 11-year-old was sitting in my cab telling me it wasn't an accident at all. "Emma, where's your mom?" "She's gone." Emma's voice cracked. "After Dad died, she tried to tell people what he found. But Victor, he made everyone think she was crazy, said she was unstable, couldn't handle the grief. Grandpa Leo believed him. Now she's not allowed to see me. They took me away from her." "Who's they?" "Victor's people. He has people everywhere." I stared at this kid, this impossibly brave, impossibly broken kid, and felt something shift inside me. I'm not a hero, never wanted to be. I'm just a driver trying to make a living and stay out of trouble. But there are lines you don't cross. And using a dead man's daughter as a pawn in some corporate power play, that's a line I couldn't ignore. "Okay," I said, "here's what we're going to do. We're going to figure this out. But I need you to be straight with me. Can you do that?" She nodded. "Good. First question. How'd you end up here tonight?" "Victor's assistant brought me. Said I was going to a safe place until they sorted things out. But I heard him on the phone. He said to drop me somewhere I'd be found, somewhere that would scare me into staying quiet." "Did you see his car?" "Black SUV, big one." I made a mental note. My Dashcam had been running when I pulled into the lot. If that SUV was there, I had it on video. Second question. Do you remember anything else your dad said about these ghost lanes? Emma's brow furrowed, like she was trying to pull memories from a fog. He had a notebook, blue cover. He wrote everything in it, route numbers, trailer IDs, dates. He said it was proof, but after he died, I couldn't find it. Victor's people went through our house. They took everything. Did your dad ever mention where he kept backups? Files, emails, anything? She shook her head. I don't know, but he took pictures once of a whiteboard in his office. He said if something happened, the pictures would be enough. Pictures. That was something. If Daniel had been smart, and it sounded like he had been, those pictures might still exist somewhere. Emma, I'm going to help you, but you got to trust me, and you got to stay safe. Do you have somewhere you can go? Family? Friends? My mom, she said immediately, but Victor won't let me see her. We'll figure that out. For now, you're staying with me. I'll keep you safe until we sort this mess out. She looked at me with those two old eyes, and for the first time since I'd found her, I saw something that wasn't fear or grief. It was hope. Fragile, flickering hope. Okay, she whispered. I started the engine and pulled out of the lot, my mind already racing through what I knew and what I needed to find out. Victor Hale was dirty, that much was clear. But how dirty? And how deep did it go? Were other people involved? Was Leo Kane complicit or just willfully blind? And most importantly, what the hell were ghost lanes and who was getting rich off them? As I drove through the rain-slicked streets of Fort Wayne, Emma curled up in the passenger seat, finally asleep, I made myself a promise. I was going to find out what happened to Daniel Kane. I was going to protect his daughter. And if Victor Hale thought he could bury the truth along with a good man, he was about to learn that some drivers don't stay in their lane. Because this wasn't just about freight and logistics anymore. This was personal. The first thing I did was get Emma somewhere safe. I couldn't take her to my place, too obvious, and if Victor had people watching, I'd be putting her right back in danger. Instead, I called the one person I trusted more than anyone in this mess, Big Red Daniels. Red's been my road buddy for years. Owner-operator, runs his own rig, doesn't take shit from anyone. He's in his mid-40s, built like a grizzly bear with a red beard that'd make a lumberjack jealous. But more importantly, Red's got a nose for corporate bullshit. He's the guy who spots the scams before they go public, who warns you when a company's about to fold, who knows which loads to avoid because they're too clean to be legal. I called him at 2 a.m., didn't care that I was waking him up. "Mac, this better be good," he growled. "It's not. It's bad. It's real bad. I need your help." Silence. Then, "Where are you?" "Headed your way. I've got a kid with me. Long story. Can she crash at your place for a bit?" Another pause. Red didn't ask questions. Not yet. That's the thing about road buddies. You trust first, ask later. "Yeah, come on."
Red lived in a double-wide trailer on the outskirts of town, parked on a couple acres of scrub land next to his personal garage. It wasn't much, but it was private, and Red didn't have neighbors close enough to hear or see anything. I pulled up around 3 a.m. Red was waiting on the porch, coffee mug in hand, looking like he'd been up for hours. Emma awoke as I killed the engine, groggy and disoriented. "Where are we?" she asked. "Friend of mine. You'll be safe here." Red came down to meet us, took one look at Emma, and his expression hardened. "Mac, what the hell did you step into?" "Later. Right now she needs food, a bed, and nobody asking questions." Red nodded. "Come on, kid. Let's get you inside." Emma followed him without protest, too tired to argue. Once she was settled on the couch with a blanket and a plate of leftovers, Red and I stepped outside. "Talk," he said. I told him everything. Emma, Victor, Daniel Kane's death, the ghost lanes, the whole damn thing. By the time I finished, Red's jaw was set like granite. "You're telling me the VP of Kane Interstate murdered one of the CEO's family and is using the kid as leverage to keep everyone quiet? That's what it looks like. And you're planning to what, investigate? Go up against Victor Hale with nothing but a dashcam and a hunch?" "I've got more than a hunch. Emma said her dad had proof. Photos, documents, something. I just gotta find it." Red shook his head. "Mac, you're a driver, not a cop. You start digging into this, Victor's gonna bury you. You know that, right?" "Maybe, but if I don't, Emma's got nobody. And Daniel Kane's death gets swept under the rug while Victor keeps running his little empire." Red stared at me for a long moment, then sighed. "All right, what do you need?" "Eyes and ears. I'm going to start running the loads they assign me, see if I can spot these ghost lanes Emma mentioned. But I need someone checking other terminals, other drivers. If Victor's running a racket, it's not just Fort Wayne. He's got to be using other routes, other rigs." "You want me to poke around?" "Yeah, quietly. Ask questions without asking questions. You know the drill." Red nodded. "I'll put feelers out. But Mac, be careful. Guys like Victor don't play fair. If he thinks you're a threat, he'll come at you hard." "Let him try." I left Emma in Red's care and headed home for a few hours of sleep. But before I crashed, I did one more thing. I pulled the dashcam footage from that night and watched it frame by frame. There it was, 11:47 p.m., a black SUV, Lincoln Navigator, parked near the terminal gate. A man in a suit, too far to see his face, opening the rear door and ushering Emma out. She hesitated, and he grabbed her arm, not gently. She pulled away, clutching her elephant, and he pointed toward the fence. Then he got back in the SUV and drove off, leaving her standing there in the rain. I zoomed in on the license plate. Partially obscured, but I could make out enough. Indiana plates starting with 47V. I saved the file, backed it up to 3 separate drives, and uploaded a copy to a secure cloud storage account. If anyone tried to wipe my Dashcam, they'd find out real quick that I wasn't stupid enough to keep only one copy. The next morning, I showed up at the Kane Interstate Terminal like nothing had happened, clocked in, grabbed my assignment from dispatch, and rolled out on a routine run to Toledo. But the whole time, my mind was working through the problem like a Rubik's Cube. Victor was running something dirty. Ghost lanes, routes that existed on paper but not in practice, or vice versa. Trailers that moved without being tracked, loads that disappeared into the ether. That kind of operation required access to the company's logistics software, control over dispatch, and cooperation, or at least silence from drivers. Which meant Victor had people, loyalists, guys who knew what was happening and were either benefiting from it or too scared to speak up. I needed to figure out who those people were, and I needed to do it without tipping my hand. The run to Toledo was uneventful, but I paid attention to everything. The manifest said I was hauling electronics, flat-screen TVs, laptops, standard retail stuff. But when I did my pre-trip inspection, the trailer felt heavier than it should have been. Not dramatically, but enough to notice if you'd been doing this as long as I had. I made a note, checked the seal on the trailer doors, intact, unbroken. Took a photo. Then I hit the road. Halfway to Toledo, dispatch called with a route change. "Mac, we need you to swing by a warehouse in Lima before you finish the delivery. Pick up and drop. Shouldn't take more than an hour." Lima wasn't on the way to Toledo. It was a detour, out of the way, through back roads I didn't usually run. "What's the pickup?" "Sealed freight. Don't worry about it. Just grab it and keep rolling." Sealed freight, code for don't ask questions. Copy that, and I took the detour. The warehouse in Lima was a bland, unmarked building on the industrial edge of town. No signage, no company name, just a street number. I backed into the dock and a guy in a high-vis vest came out, didn't say a word, just opened the trailer and loaded 3 pallets wrapped in black plastic. I watched in my mirror. The pallets were small, compact, heavier than they looked. He didn't log them, didn't give me paperwork, just sealed the trailer again and waved me off. I took a photo of the warehouse, the pallets, and the new seal number, added it to my growing file. By the time I got to Toledo and finished the delivery, I had a working theory. Victor was using company trucks to move off-books cargo, stuff that didn't show up on manifests, didn't get weighed, didn't get inspected. Could be anything. Stolen goods, contraband, who knows? But whatever it was profitable enough that he'd kill to protect it. And Daniel Kane had figured it out. That night I called Red. I found anything. Maybe. Talk to a guy who runs the Cleveland terminal. He says there's been weird routing for months. Trucks getting sent to pickups that don't exist, trailers showing up empty when they should be full. Drivers who ask questions get reassigned or fired. Sound familiar? Yeah, too familiar. There's more. A driver in Detroit says he was told to dump a trailer at an unmarked lot and not log it. When he refused, they wrote him up for insubordination. He's filing a complaint with the union, but it's going nowhere. Victor's got reach. More than that, he's got protection. Someone higher up is covering for him. Leo? That's my guess. Either Leo's in on it or he's too checked out to notice. I thought about Emma, about what she'd said. Her grandfather had believed Victor over her own mother. Either Leo was complicit or he was being played. I needed to find out which. Over the next few days, I ran every load they assigned me like it was a surveillance operation. I documented everything: pickup times, delivery locations, weight discrepancies, route deviations, unusual instructions from dispatch. My notebook started filling up with patterns that didn't make sense on the surface, but formed a picture when you stepped back and looked at the whole thing. Victor's operation was sophisticated. He wasn't just moving illegal cargo, he was hiding it inside legitimate shipments, using company trucks as cover, and manipulating the logistics software to create paper trails that looked clean to auditors, but dissolved into nothing when you tried to follow them in the real world. It was brilliant, in a sociopathic kind of way, and it required access to everything: dispatch, ELD systems, weigh station schedules, even DOT inspection routes. But I was starting to see the cracks. My first real breakthrough came on a Thursday night run to Cincinnati. I was hauling auto parts again, standard load, nothing unusual on paper, but dispatch gave me a route that took me through Dayton instead of straight down I-75. When I questioned it, they said there was construction on the highway. I checked the DOT traffic updates. No construction, no closures, nothing. I took the detour anyway, but I kept my Dashcam running and my phone's GPS tracking my actual route separately from the ELD. If they were going to manipulate my logs, I wanted independent proof of where I'd really been. Sure enough, about 20 miles outside Dayton, dispatch called with another pickup. A warehouse off State Route 49. Same setup as Lima, unmarked building, high-vis guy, sealed pallets loaded without paperwork. This time I managed to get a closer look at the cargo. The plastic wrap was thick, industrial grade, but I could see through a tear in one corner. Electronics, small boxes, circuit boards, expensive-looking components. Could have been legitimate, could have been stolen, could have been counterfeit. I didn't know, but I took photos of everything. The warehouse, the pallets, the partial serial numbers visible on the boxes, the license plates of the other two trucks parked in the lot. When I got back on the road, I checked my ELD. According to the system, I'd never left I-75. The detour didn't exist. The pickup didn't exist. I was a ghost, hauling ghost cargo on a ghost lane. I pulled over at a truck stop and called Red. I got proof, I said. GPS doesn't match ELD. They're altering the logs in real time. How? Only one way that's possible. Someone with admin access to the ELD software is editing the data as it comes in, which means this goes higher than dispatch. This is IT-level access. Red was quiet for a moment. You know what this means, right? If they're editing your logs, they can make you look like you've been anywhere, doing anything. They could set you up for a violation, a false delivery. Hell, they could put you at a crime scene you were never at. I know. That's why I'm keeping independent records of everything. They can manipulate the company system, but they can't manipulate GPS satellites or my Dashcam timestamps. Yet, Red said darkly. Mac, you need to be careful. If Victor figures out you're documenting this, I hope I write.
Yet, Red said darkly. Mac, you need to be careful. If Victor figures out you're documenting this, he won't. Not until it's too late. I hoped I was right. The next escalation came faster than I expected. 2 days after the Dayton run, I got called into the office. Not by dispatch, by Carla Ruiz, the safety and compliance manager. Carla was in her late 30s, overworked and underpaid, the kind of person who genuinely cared about keeping drivers safe, but was constantly fighting an uphill battle against corporate cost-cutting and corner-cutting. I had always respected her. She was one of the few people in management who treated drivers like human beings instead of expendable assets. Hank, we need to talk, she said, closing the door behind me. Her expression was tight, worried. What's up? She pulled up something on her computer and turned the monitor toward me. Your ELD logs from the past week, there are inconsistencies. I looked at the screen. My logs showed multiple violations, driving over hours, skipping mandatory rest breaks, exceeding speed limits. None of it was true. I had been meticulous about staying compliant, precisely because I knew someone might try to set me up. That's not accurate, I said carefully. I've been following HOS regulations to the letter. Carla's eyes narrowed. I thought so, but according to the system, you've racked up enough violations to warrant suspension. Victor's pushing for an immediate review. Victor. Of course it was Victor. Hank, what's going on? This isn't like you.
And the timing is strange. These flags started appearing right after you ran that Dayton detour. I made a split-second decision. Carla was smart, and she cared about the truth. If Victor was manipulating records in her name, she deserved to know. Carla, can I show you something? What? I pulled out my phone and opened my backup GPS logs. Now compare it to what the ELD says. She looked at both screens, eyes widening as the discrepancy became obvious. These don't match. No, they don't. Because someone with access to the ELD system is altering my logs, making it look like I'm violating regulations when I'm not. And I'm guessing they're doing it under your credentials. Her face went pale. What? Check your login history. See if there are any entries you don't recognize. She pulled up her account, scrolled through the access logs, and froze. I was logged in at 2 a.m. last Thursday. I wasn't even awake at 2 a.m. Someone is using your credentials to cover their tracks, making it look like you're the one authorizing the changes. Carla sat back, hands shaking slightly. Why would anyone do this? Because they're running an operation they don't want anyone to find out about, and they need scapegoats. Drivers who look non-compliant, managers who look incompetent. When the whole thing blows up, we're the ones who take the fall. She stared at the screen, processing. Who's behind this? I can't prove it yet, but I have a pretty good idea. Victor. It wasn't a question. Yeah. Carla closed her laptop, her expression hardening. What do you need? Help. I need to know how deep this goes. Who else has access to the ELD system? Who else is getting their logs altered? And I need evidence that will hold up outside this company, because if we go internal with this, it'll get buried. She nodded slowly. I'll start pulling reports, quietly. But Hank, if you're right about this, if Victor is really running a criminal operation through our trucks, we're both in danger. I know. You have a plan? I'm working on it. She looked at me for a long moment and then said something that surprised me. Daniel Kane came to me 2 months before he died, said that someone was altering records, falsifying safety data, covering up violations. I didn't believe him. I thought he was paranoid, seeing conspiracies where there were just clerical errors. My chest tightened. He was right. I know that now. And if I'd listened to him, maybe he'd still be alive. It's not your fault. Isn't it? She stood up, smoothing her shirt like she was putting on armor. I'll get you what you need. But promise me something. When this comes out, we make sure everyone knows what Daniel was trying to do. He deserves that much. I promise. That conversation changed everything. Carla wasn't just an ally now, she was a co-conspirator. And she had access to data I couldn't get on my own. Over the next 2 days, she pulled reports showing a pattern of ELD alterations across the entire fleet. Dozens of drivers had been flagged for violations they didn't commit. Safety incidents had been reclassified, maintenance records had been falsified to make aging equipment look roadworthy, and all of it funneled through a network of shell companies and unmarked facilities that Victor controlled. Aisha compiled it all into a hidden folder, encrypted, backed up to 3 separate servers that Victor couldn't access. Then she handed me a USB drive. Everything's on here. GPS data, financial transactions, shell company registrations. If you need to go to the authorities, this is your evidence. I took the drive like it was made of nitroglycerin, because in a way, it was. This was the proof that could bring down Victor Hale and expose the entire operation. It was also the thing that could get me killed.
Victor must have sensed the noose tightening, because the pressure started ramping up fast. The next load they assigned me was a high-value run to Cleveland. Time-sensitive, premium pay, but with a route and schedule that made no sense. The pickup was at a warehouse I'd never been to. The delivery window was impossibly tight, and the manifest listed the cargo as industrial equipment, which could mean literally anything. I took the job, but I also called Patrice Owens, the union rep and driver's committee leader. Patrice was a bulldog,
Mid-50s, tough as boot leather, and she'd been fighting for driver rights longer than I'd been on the road. If anyone could give me cover while I navigated this mess, it was her. "Mac, what are you into?" she asked when I explained the situation. "Something big. Something that's gonna blow up the company if it comes out." "You have evidence?" "Yeah, enough to bury Victor Hale and probably a few others." Patrice was quiet for a moment. "You know if you go after a VP, they're gonna come after you with everything they've got. Legal, HR, probably criminal charges if they can manufacture them." "I know. And you're doing it anyway." "I don't have a choice. A good man died because of this. His kid's in hiding, and if I don't stop it, more people are going to get hurt." "All right." Her tone shifted, less cautious, more committed. "Here's what we do. You document everything on this Cleveland run. I'll file a safety complaint with the union on your behalf, citing concerns about route integrity and cargo verification. That creates a paper trail and gives you legal cover if they try to retaliate. And if anything happens to you on the road, we'll have grounds to demand an investigation." "You'd do that?" "Damn right I would. Drivers look out for each other. That's what the union's for." I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I wasn't alone in this anymore. I had allies, people who believed me, who were willing to stand up to Victor and the corporate machine. But I also knew that made us all targets. The Cleveland run was a nightmare from the start. The warehouse where I picked up the load was in a sketchy part of town, guarded by guys who looked more like mob enforcers than warehouse workers. They loaded the trailer without letting me inspect the cargo, sealed it with a lock I didn't have the key to, and told me to drive straight through, no stops. I nodded, smiled, and did exactly what they said. Until I got 20 miles down the road, pulled into a rest area, and called a DOT inspector I knew from my union connections. "I need a favor," I said. "I'm hauling a sealed load I wasn't allowed to inspect. I think it's illegal cargo. Can you meet me and do a spot inspection?" The inspector hesitated. "If you're wrong, you're going to piss off your company. If I'm right, the company's going down anyway. Where are you?" I gave him my location. He showed up 30 minutes later, official DOT vehicle, clipboard, the whole 9 yards. I explained the situation, how I'd been ordered not to inspect the cargo, how the route didn't make sense, and how I suspected the load was part of a larger criminal operation. He took it seriously, cut the seal, opened the trailer, and started documenting what was inside. Stolen electronics. High-end laptops, tablets, server components, merchandise still in manufacturer packaging but with serial numbers that'd been filed off or covered. The kind of cargo that was worth hundreds of thousands on the black market. The inspector's face went hard. "This is a federal case. I'm calling this in." "Do it, but don't mention my name yet. The people running this operation are powerful. If they know I'm the one who blew the whistle, they'll come after me before the investigation even starts." He nodded. "I'll keep you out of it for now, but you're going to have to testify eventually." "I know. Just give me time to get everyone safe first." He impounded the trailer, gave me paperwork documenting the seizure, and sent me on my way. I drove back to Fort Wayne empty, my heart pounding, knowing I'd just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. Victor would know something went wrong. He'd know the load didn't get delivered, and he'd know someone had talked. I just had to make sure he didn't know it was me. Not yet. But Victor was smarter than I gave him credit for. The next morning, I got a text from dispatch. "Report to Victor Hale's office immediately." My stomach dropped. This was it. He knew. I walked into his office, trying to look calm, but my pulse was hammering in my ears. Victor sat behind his desk, immaculate as always, but there was something cold in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Close the door, Hank," he said. I did. "You've been with Kane Interstate a long time, 20 years, clean record, good driver.
That's why I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt here. Benefit of the doubt about what? Your Cleveland run. You were supposed to deliver that load yesterday. Instead, it got impounded by DOT. Want to explain how that happened? I got pulled for a random inspection. They found something they didn't like, impounded the trailer. I can't control what DOT does. Your ELD shows you had 3 hours left. My ELD's been glitchy lately. You should talk to IT about that. His smile vanished. Hank, I'm going to be very clear with you here. You're treading on dangerous ground. There are things happening at this company that are above your pay grade, things you don't understand. If you keep sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, you're going to get hurt. Is that a threat? It's friendly advice from someone who values your contributions and wants to see you keep your job. I held his gaze. Funny, that's almost exactly what you told Daniel Kane before he died. The room went silent. Victor's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Maybe surprise or calculation. Daniel Kane was a tragic accident, he said slowly. Was it? Yes, and if you're implying otherwise, you should be very careful. Slandering a dead man and spreading conspiracy theories won't help your career. I'm not worried about my career. I'm worried about the truth. Victor stood up, buttoning his jacket. The truth is that you're a driver, Hank. You drive trucks. You don't make corporate decisions. You don't investigate accidents. And you definitely don't interfere with operations you don't understand. So here's what's going to happen. You're suspended pending a review of your conduct, effective immediately. Turn in your keys and your ELD device. You can't suspend me without cause. I just did. And if you fight it, I'll make sure everyone knows about your recent performance issues. Late deliveries, ELD violations, unauthorized stops. You'll never drive for another reputable carrier again. I felt rage boiling in my chest, but I kept my voice level. You're making a mistake. No, Hank, you are. I turned and walked out before I said something I'd regret. My hands were shaking as I handed my keys to the dispatch clerk. I'd been fired before. Well, suspended, but it was the same thing. Victor had just cut me off from the company, isolated me, made it harder for me to gather evidence or protect Emma. But he'd also confirmed something important. He was scared. Scared enough to make a move this aggressive, this fast, which meant we were getting close to something he couldn't afford to have exposed. I called Red from the parking lot. I'm out. Victor suspended me. Shit, what are you going to do? I'm keep digging. He can take my keys, but he can't take my evidence, and he sure as hell can't take my determination. Mac, he's going to come after you now, full force. Let him. I'm done playing defense. Being suspended should have slowed me down. It didn't. If anything, it freed me up to investigate without having to pretend I was just a regular driver doing regular runs. Victor had cut me loose, thinking it would neutralize me. Instead, he'd given me exactly what I needed: time and motivation. The first thing I did was check on Emma. I drove out to Red's place and found her sitting at his kitchen table doing homework, or trying to. She looked up when I walked in, and I could see the question in her eyes before she asked it. "Are you okay?" she said. "I'm fine. Got suspended, but that's temporary." "Because of me?" "No, sweetheart. Because I'm getting too close to the truth, and Victor's scared." Red was standing by the stove, coffee in hand. "What's the play now, Mac?" "I need to talk to Leo Kane, face to face. If he's complicit, I need to know. If he's just willfully blind, maybe I can wake him up." "You think he'll listen to you?" "I don't know, but I have to try. Because if Leo's involved, we're fighting the whole company. If he's just being manipulated by Victor, maybe we can turn him." Emma spoke up, voice small but determined. "My grandpa, he's not a bad person. He doesn't see things anymore. Not since Grandma died." Victor tells him what to think. That's what I'm hoping, because if your grandpa can be convinced, we have a chance. Getting a meeting with Leo Kane wasn't easy. He didn't take calls from suspended drivers, but I had one card left to play.
Getting a meeting with Leo Kane wasn't easy. He didn't take calls from suspended drivers, but I had one card left to play. Emma. I called Dana Kane, Emma's mother, using a number Red had tracked down through some creative investigating. Dana had been pushed out of the company, gaslit and labeled unstable after Daniel's death, but she was still Leo's daughter, and she still had a way to reach him. When she answered, her voice was cautious, defensive. "Who is this?" "My name's Hank Rourke. I drive for Kane Interstate, or I did until Victor suspended me. I'm calling because I have your daughter." Silence. Then, sharp and panicked. "Where is she? Is she hurt?" "She's safe. She's with me. I found her outside the terminal a few days ago, soaking wet and terrified. She told me everything. About Daniel, about Victor, about what your father refused to believe." "Why are you calling me?" "Because I need to talk to Leo, and he won't take a call from me, but he'll take one from you." Another pause. "What makes you think I can even get through to him? He hasn't spoken to me in months." "Because you're his daughter, and because Emma deserves to see her mother again. Help me set up a meeting with Leo, and I'll bring Emma to you." Dana's voice cracked. "You'd really do that?" "Yeah, but I need something in return. I need you to tell Leo what you know, about Victor, about the ghost lanes, about what Daniel found before he died. Can you do that?" "I tried. He didn't believe me." "Try again, but this time I'll bring proof." It took her less than a minute to decide. "Okay, I'll get you the meeting." 2 days later, I found myself standing outside Leo Kane's estate, a sprawling property on the outskirts of Fort Wayne, the kind of place that screamed old money and older power. Dana met me at the gate, looking older than I expected, worn down by grief and betrayal. But when she saw Emma get out of my truck, something in her face broke open. Emma ran to her, and they held each other like they'd been separated for years instead of weeks. I gave them a moment, then gently reminded them why we were here. "He's waiting inside," Dana said, wiping her eyes. "But Hank, be careful. Victor's been poisoning him against anyone who questions the company. If you come at him too hard, he'll shut down. I'll let the evidence do the talking." We walked up to the house, me, Dana, Emma, and Red, who'd insisted on coming as backup. A housekeeper let us in, and we were led to a study that looked like it belonged in a museum. Dark wood, leather chairs, walls lined with photos of trucks and awards, and Leo Kane shaking hands with governors and senators. And sitting behind a massive oak desk, looking smaller than I expected, was Leo Kane himself. He was in his 70s, gray-haired, with the kind of face that once commanded rooms but now just looked tired. When he saw Emma, his expression softened, but when he saw me, it hardened. "You said you have something important to show me," he said, voice gruff. "Make it quick." I set the USB drive on his desk. "This contains evidence that your Vice President of Operations, Victor Hale, has been running a criminal enterprise through your company. He's been using your trucks to move stolen goods, falsifying safety records, manipulating ELD data, and covering his tracks by scapegoating drivers and managers." Leo didn't touch the drive. "That's a serious accusation. It's a serious crime, and your son-in-law found out about it. That's why he's dead." Leo's face went pale. "Daniel died in an accident." "No, sir, he didn't. He was murdered because he discovered what Victor was doing and tried to stop it." "You have proof of that?" Not direct proof of the murder, but I have proof of the conspiracy, and I have testimony from your granddaughter who heard Victor threaten her daddy days before he died." Leo looked at Emma, who nodded, tears streaming down her face. "He screamed at Daddy, said he was jeopardizing everything, said there would be consequences." Leo's hands trembled slightly. He picked up the USB drive, stared at it like it might explode, then plugged it into his computer. For the next 20 minutes, he scrolled through files, GPS data, financial records, shell company documents, emails between Victor and his criminal contacts. His face grew darker with every page. Finally, he sat back looking like he'd aged 10 years. "Victor did this," he said quietly, "under my watch, using my company." "Yes, sir." "Why didn't anyone tell me?" Dana's voice was hard. "I tried. Daniel tried. You chose to believe Victor instead." Leo flinched. "Victor, he told me you were unstable, that Daniel was paranoid, that the stress of the job was getting to both of you. And you believed him because it was easier than believing your own family," Dana said. Leo closed his eyes. "I failed you. I failed Daniel. God help me, I failed Emma." "You can still make this right," I said, "but we need your help. Victor's got power, connections, lawyers. If we go after him without you, he'll bury us. But if you stand with us, if you expose what he's done and cooperate with the investigation, we can stop him." Leo looked at me, then at Dana, then at Emma. "What do you need?" "Your testimony, your authority, and access to the company's financial records so we can trace every dollar Victor stole." "Done." His voice was firmer now, stronger. "I'll call the board. Emergency meeting. Tomorrow morning." "Victor's going to be there?" "He has to be. He's VP of Operations, but he won't know what's coming." "Good." I leaned forward. "One more thing. Victor's dangerous. He's already killed once, and he's willing to do it again. We need protection. For Emma, for Dana, for everyone helping us. I'll arrange security, and I'll contact law enforcement. If you have evidence of murder, they need to be involved." "Already done. Detective Marcus Lang with the Commercial Crimes Division has been briefed. He's standing by." Leo nodded slowly. "Then let's finish this."
But Victor wasn't going down without a fight. That night, as I was driving back to Red's place, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hank Rourke?" A voice I didn't recognize. "Who's this?" "A friend. I'm calling to warn you. Victor knows about the meeting tomorrow. He's planning something." "Planning what?" "I don't know details, but he's been making calls, moving money. He's got people who owe him favors. Dangerous people. If I were you, I'd watch my back." "Who are you?" "Someone who's tired of covering for a criminal. Just be careful." The line went dead. I called Red immediately. "We got a problem. Victor knows." "How?" "Doesn't matter. What matters is he's planning a move. We need to secure everyone. Emma, Dana, Carla, Aisha. Make sure they're safe before tomorrow." "I'll handle it. You worry about staying alive." I drove to Red's place, picked up Emma and Dana, and moved them to a motel on the edge of town under fake names. Then I called Carla and Aisha and told them to stay home, lock their doors, and not answer for anyone they didn't know. Patrice, the union rep, I called last. "Tomorrow's the showdown. You still in?" "Damn right I am. I'll be there with a lawyer and a recorder. Victor tries anything, we'll have it documented." "Good, because he's cornered, and cornered animals bite." That night I barely slept. I kept going over everything in my head. The evidence, the testimonies, the holes Victor might exploit. But mostly, I kept thinking about Daniel Kane
and how he'd tried to do the right thing and ended up dead for it. I wasn't going to let that happen to anyone else. The next morning, I arrived at Kane Interstate headquarters an hour early. The building was a modern glass and steel structure on the north side of Fort Wayne, the kind of place that looked more like a tech startup than a trucking company. Detective Lang was already there, along with 2 other officers, waiting in an unmarked car. "You ready for this?" Lang asked when I walked over. "As ready as I'll ever be." "Good. We'll be inside, but we're staying back until Victor incriminates himself. We need him to confess or make a move we can arrest him for. Otherwise, his lawyers will tear this apart. He'll make a move. He's too arrogant not to." By 9 a.m., the boardroom was filling up. Board members, senior management, a few lawyers, and Leo Kane at the head of the table. Victor walked in at 9:05, looking calm and confident, like this was just another routine meeting. Then he saw me. His expression flickered. Surprise, then anger, then calculation. He leaned over to Leo. "What's he doing here?" "I invited him." "Sit down, Victor." Victor sat, but his eyes never left me. Leo stood. "Thank you all for coming on short notice. We're here because serious allegations have been made against our operations, and I believe they warrant immediate investigation." "What kind of allegations?" one of the board members asked. He gestured to me. "Hank, if you would." I stood, feeling every eye in the room on me. I plugged the USB drive into the presentation system and pulled up the first file, a map showing ghost lanes, trucks that were logged in one place but GPS tracked in another. For the past years, someone with access to our logistics systems has been using company trucks to move illegal cargo. They've been falsifying ELD data, manipulating safety records, and creating phantom routes to hide their activities. Murmurs around the table. Victor's jaw tightened. I pulled up the next file, financial records showing payments from shell companies to offshore accounts. The person running this operation has been siphoning money through fake vendors and dummy corporations. We've traced over $2 million in fraudulent transactions. More murmurs. One of the board members looked at Victor. "Do you know anything about this?" Victor smiled, but it was cold. "This is absurd. Hank Rourke is a disgruntled employee who was suspended for safety violations. He's clearly fabricating evidence to retaliate." "Then explain this," I said, pulling up the next file. Emails between Victor and his contacts, discussing shipments, payoffs, and problem drivers who needed to be dealt with. Victor's smile vanished. "These emails were sent from your corporate account to known criminals, arranging illegal shipments, coordinating cover-ups." "Those are fake," Victor said, but his voice had lost its confidence. "They're not," Aisha said, standing from the back of the room. "I pulled them from the company's backup servers. They're time-stamped, verified, and authenticated. They're real." Victor stood, his face flushing red. "This is a setup. You've all been manipulated by a conspiracy." "Sit down, Victor," Leo said quietly. "No, I won't sit here and be accused of crimes I didn't commit by a truck driver with a grudge." "Daniel Kane found the same evidence. That's why you killed him." The room went silent. Victor's face went white. "That's slander!" "Is it?" I pulled up the final file, a reconstruction of Daniel's last route, showing how his truck had been tampered with, how the accident had been staged. "You can't prove that," Victor snarled. "We can prove you threatened him," Dana said, standing. "I heard you, days before he died. You told him if he didn't back off, there would be consequences." Victor turned to Leo. "You're going to believe them, your unstable daughter, and a fired driver?" "I'm going to believe the evidence and my conscience. Victor Hale, you're terminated, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. You can't—" "I just did." That's when Victor snapped. He reached into his jacket, and for a split second I thought he was going for a gun. Instead, he pulled out his phone and started dialing frantically. Detective Lang stepped forward, badge out. "Victor Hale, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, falsification of federal transportation records, and suspected involvement in the death of Daniel Kane." Victor's phone slipped from his hand.
2 officers moved in, cuffing him while he sputtered denials and threats. But it was over. The evidence was overwhelming, the witnesses were credible, and Leo Kane himself had turned on him. As they led Victor out, he locked eyes with me one last time. "You have no idea what you've done," he hissed. "The people I work for, they won't let this go." "Then they'll go down too," I said. He was dragged out, still protesting, still denying. The boardroom erupted in chaos. Board members demanding answers, lawyers scrambling to assess liability, managers trying to figure out what came next. But Leo just sat there, looking old and broken. I walked over to him. "You did the right thing." "Did I?" He looked up at me. "I let this happen, Hank. I was so busy protecting my legacy that I didn't see what was rotting underneath it. You can still fix it. Make the company what it should be. Honor Daniel's memory by doing better." He nodded slowly. "I will, starting now." The aftermath moved fast. Victor was arraigned on multiple federal charges. The FBI opened an investigation into the shell companies and the larger network he'd been a part of. Drivers who'd been wrongfully terminated were reinstated with back pay. Safety protocols were overhauled, and a new oversight committee was formed, one that included driver representatives, union leadership, and independent auditors. Dana's name was cleared. She was offered her old position back, but she declined. Instead, she took a consulting role helping rebuild the company's compliance systems. Emma went back to living with her mother, no longer a pawn in anyone's game. Carla Ruiz was promoted to chief safety officer, with real authority to shut down operations that didn't meet standards. Aisha Park became director of IT security, tasked with preventing future data manipulation. And Patrice Owens? She got a seat on the board, the first union representative in the company's history. As for me, Leo offered me a management position, something with a desk, a salary, benefits. I turned it down. "I'm a truck driver," I told him. "That's what I'm good at. But I'll take a seat on your new safety council. Somebody's got to make sure the voice of the road gets heard." He smiled. A real smile, the first I'd seen from him. "Deal." I went back to driving, but things were different now. The loads made sense, the routes were honest, and the pressure to cut corners was gone. Drivers weren't afraid to speak up anymore, and when they did, someone actually listened. One afternoon, a few weeks after everything settled, I was fueling up at a truck stop when I got a call from Emma. "Hank? Hey, kiddo. Everything okay?" "Yeah, I wanted to say thank you for believing me, for not driving past that night." My chest tightened. "You don't have to thank me, Emma. I just did what anyone should have done." "But you didn't have to. You could have called someone else, or dropped me at a police station, or just not gotten involved. But you didn't. You stayed, and you fought for my dad, even though you never met him. I'm glad it was you." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." After we hung up, I sat in my cab for a long time staring at the horizon. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, and the road stretched out ahead of me like it always had, long, open, endless. I thought about Daniel Kane and how one man standing up for what was right had almost been erased, forgotten, buried under lies and power. But he hadn't been, because his daughter remembered, because people like Carla and Aisha and Patrice cared enough to risk their own safety to help, because a truck driver who spent 20 years just trying to keep his head down decided that some things were worth fighting for. I started the engine and pulled back onto the highway. The rig hummed beneath me, steady and strong, carrying me forward into whatever came next. You know, people think truck drivers are invisible, just part of the scenery, moving goods from point A to point B, never making waves, never asking questions. And maybe that's true for some, but not for all of us. Because here's the thing. We see everything. We're on the road when the deals go down, when the cargo gets switched, when the books get cooked. We're the ones they expect to just follow orders and keep quiet. And most of the time we do,
because we've got bills to pay and families to feed, and fighting the system feels like throwing yourself at a brick wall. But every now and then, someone crosses a line that can't be uncrossed. They hurt someone who didn't deserve it. They use their power to crush people who can't fight back. They take a kid's father and think nobody will care enough to ask questions. And when that happens, it's not about being a hero. It's about being human. About doing what's right, even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, even when the smart move would be to walk away and pretend you didn't see anything. Emma Kane was standing alone in the rain that night because powerful people thought they could make her disappear. They thought nobody would notice, nobody would care, nobody would fight for one scared kid against a corporate empire. They were wrong. And if you're out there right now, whether you're a driver, a warehouse worker, an office clerk, or just someone trying to get by, and you see something wrong, something that makes your gut twist, something that tells you people are being hurt and nobody's doing anything about it, I'm telling you, don't look away. Document it, photograph it, record it, keep backup somewhere safe. Build a case, piece by piece, until you've got proof they can't deny. Then find people you trust, allies, advocates, anyone with the courage to stand with you and bring it into the light. Because the powerful only stay powerful as long as we let them. As long as we stay quiet, stay scared, stay invisible. But the second we start speaking up, start standing together, start refusing to let them get away with it, that's when things change. Victor Hale thought he was untouchable. He had money, authority, connections. He thought he could kill a man, steal millions, and destroy anyone who got in his way. And for a while, he was right. Until a truck driver with a dashcam and a conscience decided he wasn't. So here's what I'm asking you. If you've ever been that person, the one who stood up when it would have been easier to stay silent, the one who protected someone vulnerable when nobody else would, drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me your story, because those stories matter. They remind us that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they refuse to be complicit. And if you know someone who's being hurt right now, someone who needs protection, someone who's too scared or too powerless to fight back on their own, be the person who stops, who asks questions, who doesn't drive past just because it's not your problem. Because it is your problem. It's all of our problem, and the only way we fix it is together. Thanks for riding along on this one. If this story meant something to you, hit that subscribe button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, keep your dash cam rolling, keep your records clean, and never let the bastards convince you that you don't matter. You do. We all do. Stay safe out there. Keep your eyes open, and if you see a kid standing alone in the rain, don't keep driving. Stop. You might just save more than one life. I'll see you on the road.